Hi everybody, thank you for joining me. Today I'm going to show you how I transform these clear wine glasses into functional art using epoxy resin and alcohol ink. The epoxy resin I like to use for these kinds of projects is Tumblers Coating Epoxy. It's from the epoxy resin store. I like to use this because it's food safe and it's also UV stable, so the resin won't turn yellow. Before I apply the resin, I like to wipe off my wine glasses with 91% alcohol. I do this to remove any oils and dirt from the wine glasses from handling them. This will help the epoxy resin adhere to the wine glasses. Okay. Once I do that, I mix my epoxy resin. It's equal parts resin and hardener. I'm gonna fast forward through that because you don't need to see me mixing for 5 minutes. Once the epoxy resin and hardener are thoroughly mixed, I apply them onto the wine glasses. I like to go to about a third of the way up. Go. I try to go a little bit slowly to ensure good coverage and also prevent a lot of drips because it's wasteful. Go. And I don't do it in a straight line. I like to do waves because I think it's more interesting that way. Okay, take a look at that, see if I'm happy. Then the other one. Now some people use a stick or like even a foundation applier, something like that, to put the epoxy resin on, but I prefer to use my fingers to get a feel for the spots that don't have enough epoxy resin on them. And I'll speed through this a little bit and I will get back to you once I'm ready for the next step. Now that I've applied the epoxy resin, I like to hit it with my torch to pop some of the bubbles that naturally occur when you combine epoxy resin with hardener. The trick is to keep the torch moving so that you don't scorch the resin. Now I'm ready to apply alcohol ink. Today I'm making green wine glasses, so I'm using the colors Stream, Patina, Avocado, Clover, and I'll use a little bit of this alcohol pearl in Sublime. I will list the materials in the description below. I'm gonna start with Clover. There is no science to how much or in which part of the wine glasses to apply the alcohol ink. It's just wherever I feel like it. And then avocado. Oops, this one's almost empty. Luckily, I have another bottle. I just apply it wherever I like. The colors can overlap, that's totally fine. And I make sure that the edges of the resin are covered. Next, I'm going to use Patina, which is a lighter green, different shade. And if the alcohol ink goes over the line, in other words, to the area where there isn't any epoxy resin, that's okay. I can clean that up after the epoxy resin has fully cured. And I just clean that up with alcohol. And the last color I'm going to use is Stream. It's a darker, almost like blue-green. I like the contrast that it gives. Okay. And they don't have to look exactly alike, of course. And then once I'm happy with how that looks, I check to see if I've missed any spots with either the epoxy resin or the alcohol ink. And if I did miss spots, then I just add some. Let's see. That one looks okay. Checking this one. Looks like there's a spot. Over here. And there's a speck of something over there. If that happens, you just wipe it off and apply more epoxy resin. And then I put more alcohol ink on the spot that I wiped off. There we go. And then, once I'm happy with the composition, I hit it with a heat gun. This pops any more bubbles that have come up and also allows me to manipulate the epoxy resin and alcohol ink a little bit more to get the coverage that I like. Okay. And I see a couple of spots that I want to add more alcohol ink to. I did that. And I just check it to make sure I like it. Oops, I'm a little bit more here. And I also check to make sure that I've covered the bottom of the glass. Okay. Now that that's done, I want to apply a little bit of this alcohol pearl. There's a lot of sediment at the bottom, so I have to shake it up for a few seconds, and then a lot of gunk accumulates on the top there, so I wipe it off first and then I apply it just wherever I like to add some little highlights. Okay. So you can see they look like blobs right now. So I use the heat gun again to kind of mix that up. see it changes the composition. Okay. Now I am checking to see if I missed any more spots. I think there's like a spot here that could use help. And again, like the torch, you want to keep the heat gun moving so that you don't scorch the resin. Also, it is obviously alcoholic, so it is flammable. You don't want to catch fire. That's why you keep the both the torch and the heat gun moving. And you just look to make sure if you want to make any adjustments. And I like that one. I like the contrast. I'm looking to see if I want to add more dark green to this one. And I think I want just a little bit more. Maybe there. Okay. It comes around. I'm liking it. So now I'm just going to continue to let these wine glasses turn for another 8 hours. After that, the resin will be partially cured, so you can kind of touch it, but it won't be fully cured until after 24 hours. But I can turn off the cup turner after 8 hours because the resin won't be dripping. So that's it. I will show you the finished product tomorrow.